Welcome, my friends, to a new series here on the channel where we're going to be taking a look at a hypothetical situation of a Warhammer fantasy movie actually being made. On that note, we're going to be taking a look at what actors, and a lot of actors you guys probably know from Game of Thrones and just all over the spectrum, who would play who in this fantasy universe. So firstly, let us begin with number one, and this is going to be split up into a multitude of videos, so we're not going to get every single character in this video, but we're going to be going through probably about 5 or 10 characters, and if you guys enjoy it, we'll do it for the rest of the characters and maybe bring on some guests and just have some fun with it. It's going to be just a ridiculous video. So the first one is going to be Vlad von Karstein. So I think that if there was a Warhammer fantasy movie, I think that the perfect actor to play Vlad von Karstein would be Charles Dance. So Charles Dance, of course, is the actor from Game of Thrones who played Tywin Lannister. I think that Tywin Lannister and Vlad kind of have some similarities, I suppose. Now, again, I'm just learning the lore, so a lot of it is going to be based on aesthetics and, the perception of them in the game. But I really think that Charles, with his kind of intense determination and just that stalwart will, I just think that he would be the perfect Vlad von Karstein. And I believe he's actually played a vampire lord before in the Underworld series. So maybe that's something that just kind of stuck with me and kind of reminded me hey, he'd be a good vampire. But I just think the persona he really portrayed with Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones would be perfect for Vlad. I just think that that gritty will and just that tactical acumen. But again, I'm sure Vlad does make some emotional decisions, but from what I understand, he's quite a character. And again, I may be a little bit off on the lore, but I just think that Charles Dance would be the perfect Vlad von Karstein. So for number 2, we have Karl Franz, and there was a couple of candidates I had for Karl Franz, but the one I ended up going with was Clive Owen. So Clive Owen, of course, from Children of Men, you guys have probably seen that. It's a bit of an older movie, about 10 or 15 years old at this point. He was in King Arthur, and he's kind of a veteran of action and fantasy movies, but I think Clive Owen would make a pretty solid Karl Franz. He kind of looks like the portrayal of Karl Franz in Total War Warhammer. I had a couple funnier ones, I think Bruce Campbell, if you wanted to be a little bit more comedic, but I feel Karl Franz isn't really a comedic character, I don't think. So, Bruce Campbell would be so funny, but for this, we're going to be going for Clive Owen. I think that he would make a good Karl Franz, at least in terms of appearance. Again, I've seen a fair amount of his movies. I enjoyed him in King Arthur and Children of Men. Well, I think he could pull it off, and it'd be a lot of fun. Now, the next one is going to be a little bit ridiculous. We're going to have Skarsnik. So I think that Skarsnik, although it's a little bit tough it has to be Danny DeVito. Skarsnik is going to be played by Danny DeVito. His portrayal of the troll, I guess it's a troll. And if you guys have seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, it is one of the best goddamn shows ever made. And Danny DeVito playing the troll when they do the play, oh my God, it was I was that's just the perfect goblin / troll. So I think that Danny DeVito as Skarsnik would be just the most ridiculous. Imagine him just rubbing his palms together, just scheming, and with Danny DeVito's voice. God, it would be so perfect. So the next one is pretty much a gimme. It's going to be Teclis, and obviously I would go with Benedict Cumberbatch, not only because of their physical similarities in terms of the portrayal in Total War Warhammer, but also Benedict has played characters like Sherlock and Doctor Strange, and kind of these. Doctor Strange is the perfect comparison, right? He's this mystical, benevolent character, and I think that has a really nice kind of synergy with a Teclis. And yeah, I think that Benedict would be an amazing Teclis. That'd be great. Next one's another gimme. So we're going to get a couple gimmies out of the way before we go to some of the more, I guess, a little more in depth of the characters here. We're going to have Orion. So Orion, of course, would be played by none other than Mel Gibson. I think Orion is very, he has this uncanny ferocity. He's vengeful. I think that Mel Gibson, all jokes aside, actually wouldn't be bad. Mel, of course, has played some very intense roles in Braveheart and just a multitude of action movies from the 80s and 90s. So I think Mel Gibson, it has to be him. Really, there just can be no other choice. We're going to be going for Mel Gibson for this particular pick. Next, we're going to have Helman Gorst. So Helman Gorst, I think you guys probably know it's coming. I think he would be played by Ian McDiarmid, I believe is how you say his name. And Ian McDiarmid is the gentleman who played Senator Palpatine in Star Wars. It's just too perfect. They bear a bit of a resemblance. He has the physical characteristics and attributes to just look at like an old decrepit necromancer. He has the experience cackling, as Palpatine, or Darth Sidious as he's actually called. I think that Ian would be a perfect cast for Helman Gorst. So next, we're going to be doing Tyrion. So Tyrion, this is a bit of a funny one, right? Because in the actor I've chosen, who's going to be Nikolai Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones, I think he would be a good Tyrion. He's kind of got that handsome look, right, to be a high elf character, but he's also has that warrior acumen about him, I think. So I think he would be a good Tyrion as well. And imagine him and Benedict as across. I think they would be a nice little team as Teclis and Tyrion. I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, we're going to go for Nikolai. Of course, for those of you who don't know who he is and who've been living under a rock for the past countless years here, I think he'd be a great choice. And of course, he was in Game of Thrones. He played Tyrion, or not Tyrion. He played, oh my God, Jaime Lannister. I just get him confused because I'm looking at the name here. But yeah, the irony of that is that his brother's name in Game of Thrones, of course, was Tyrion, and he was Jaime Lannister, which, Yeah, we have a couple Lannisters. We have Charles Dance, of course, is Vlad, and Tyrion by Nikolai Coster-Waldau there. Waldau? Hopefully I said his name correctly, but I think he would be a really good Tyrion. So the next one I think is one of my favorites on the list. We have High King Thorgrim. So I don't think we could complete this video without talking about a dwarf pick. And I think that the perfect, and a lot of Game of Thrones veterans, because again, they just kind of showed their fantasy chops in the Game of Thrones series. I think that having James Cosmo as High King Thorgrim would be perfect. Just like rock solid perfect. So James Cosmo, of course, is in Game of Thrones more recently, but he's been in countless productions. He is awesome. So James Cosmo played the old bear, J.R. Mormont. I always get that wrong. I don't know. I read the book and I was like always trying to like pronounce it in my head, but he was the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch in the earlier seasons. Of course, well, I guess it's like spoilers. I won't say any spoilers, but he was the Lord's Commander of the Night Watch when Jon Snow first came to the Night's Watch, and he is just like, he has like all the characteristics of like a grumbling Dawi Lord who's just like also like just badass. And he was in Braveheart as well, and he's just like the perfect actor to play a dwarf. And of course, they would have to do the what's it called, the treatment that they gave to Gimli in Lord of the Rings, in which they kind of shrink the character down with CG and things like that. But I think he would be really good. And of course, we'll be talking about other dwarves in some of the other videos and whatnot. But I think High King Thorgrim would most certainly be James Cosmo. All right, guys, and the next character here on the list is going to be Alarielle the Radiant. So a lot of you guys probably have already guessed this one. It's actually going to be Cate Blanchett. So Cate Blanchett already has a bit of an elvish aesthetic about her, but more importantly, she played Galadriel in Lord of the Rings, which I think is a pretty big sell. Also, more recently, she did play in Thor Ragnarok. She played Hela, and I thought she did a great job in that. So I really think she'd be a perfect fit for Alarielle. Of course, her Galadriel performance is like the perfect transition over to that. And a lot of these characters, like the characters they played, are like, it's almost like, because Warhammer kind of like takes from a lot of other things, right? So like the archetypes are already there, so it's going to seem like they're playing the same character over again, but nonetheless, I think that she would be a perfect fit. So Alarielle the Radiant is going to be played by Cate Blanchett, and the next one is going to be Wulfric. So Wulfric, of course, the eternal challenger. You guys could probably guess this one too. It's going to be Travis Fimmel. So Travis Fimmel did, of course, play Ragnar Lothbrok in Vikings. And, you know, kind of his insane demeanor. Ragnar kind of goes through a transition. Of course, he starts out as a bit of a farmer, but as the later seasons kind of come on, he gets a little bit more crazy and starts having some issues. I think that's when he starts to like really show his chops for playing Wulfric. I think he would be perfect. Like that kind of, they could even show like Wulfric at some point, like in his earlier stages when he was kind of more of a, not a simple Norse king, but he was kind of, before he was fully taken over by the Chaos Gods in a way. Because Wulfric, essentially, in terms of lore, is like constantly being spoken to in his head by all four of the Chaos Gods. So he's a little bit insane, right? But of course, he's been given the gift of tongues. He can speak all these languages. I think that Travis Fimmel like has that kind of insane look and would be really perfect. I mean, he has the combat training from being on Vikings to really portray like a solid combatant on screen. And I think Travis would be a really, really good Wulfric. So with the next pick here, we're going to be going on to Tretch Craventail. So it seems like a bit of an odd pick, right? We have more important Skaven characters. We have, Skrulk, and we have Queek Headtaker and these very iconic characters. But why are we talking about Tretch? Well, because I think there's an actor who would be perfect for Tretch, and I just thought it was too funny to not talk about. So for Tretch, we're going to have Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi, for anyone who doesn't know, is like the veteran of countless haggard comedy movies. He's a good pal of Adam Sandler, appeared in Waterboy and just all the old Adam Sandler movies. He's got the buggy eyes. That's really kind of his iconic feature. And I think he would be very good at playing like a Tretch type character, just kind of this like cowering, like, just like buggy eyed rat character. It would be so perfect. And Steve Buscemi is like one of my favorite like comedy actors. That guy is so awesome. And I think it would be a really funny, ridiculous fit to see him as a Tretch Craventail. So I don't know. And let me know what you guys think. If you think there would be a better Tretch, but I think Steve Buscemi would be perfect. He could arguably be Queek as well. But Queek, all Skaven kind of have a cowardly attribute about them, or at least to an extent. But I still think like him as Tretch, like this cowardly, like kind of ridiculous, like opportunistic Skaven character would be incredibly funny. So the next one is going to be Grimgor Ironhide. And something about this list, we're not going to be doing too many of the characters that like Beastmen characters and like things like that. Because it's a little bit, I guess you could. We're going to be doing more of the humanoid characters, but we will be doing some like in the greenskins and things like that. Of course, we already did Skarsnik up above as Danny DeVito, but for Grimgor Ironhide, we're going to have Ron Perlman. So Ron Perlman, of course, Sons of Anarchy, he played Hellboy. Ron Perlman has been around forever, and I think they probably wouldn't have to do too much in the way of like prosthetics and makeup, right? Because like even when like he played Hellboy, he still kind of looked like Ron Perlman, and I think for Grimgor that would be pretty awesome. He's got that like big like he's a pretty big dude. He's got that like burly jawline. Like he would be a pretty cool Grimgor. That would be really interesting, and he's got that like kind of raspy kind of beast voice already. So I think that Ron Perlman would make a great Grimgor Ironhide. Of course, Grimgor's massive, so they'd have to do some CGI or some sort of prosthetic work in that regard. But I think that seeing Grimgor Ironhide and Ron Perlman would be great. So guys, that's going to be concluding our first video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this really ridiculous video. If you guys enjoy it enough and it gets enough traffic here, I'll do more. Like, I'll go through every single character or legendary lord available in Total War Warhammer. And then from there, maybe I'll grab some folks like the Great Lord Master of Sotek, Italian Spartacus, who of course know characters outside of the game, and we can branch out and talk about those guys as well. So it's going to be a new series on the channel, maybe once every week until we run out, or once every couple weeks. We'll figure it out. But let me know, guys, based on the characters we talked about today, do you agree with the decisions we made? Do you think that Nikolai Coster-Waldau should play Tyrion? Do you think High King Thorgrim should be played by James Cosmo? You think there would be a better Skarsnik? I don't think so. I think Danny DeVito's perfect. But if you guys do, please let me know in the comment section below. And also, if there's characters you want to see quicker in the next video, please let me know in the comment section which characters you'd like me to cover. I think that Prince Sigvald's going to be really good. We'll do Archeon. We're going to get in there pretty good. It's going to be fun. So guys, thanks again for watching, and we will see you next time. Take care.